Welcome back. So sorry about not having a ghoul ready with me last week, but I had a cold, as you can tell. I'm still kind of getting over it. Like, I feel fine. I've just been coughing still, so like I still sound really rough. But pushing through. Gonna get you a ghoul ready with me, and then we'll have a ghoul ready with me next week, and then Halloween is on a Monday, so we're gonna make up for that lost ghoul ready with me on Halloween. Sound good to you guys? Because I think that's a brilliant plan, if I do say so myself, and I do. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, I kind of gave myself a little bit of a head start, but let's get into it, shall we? Trevor was a highly esteemed member of an archaeological society, and when they heard that there was an earthquake that had caused some ruins in the jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula to open up, they could not have been more excited to get down there and see what was there, what had been uncovered, what kind of archaeological discoveries could they possibly make for their university. They immediately decided that he should be the one to go and sent him down there. Honored, he immediately accepted and packed his bags and couldn't wait to see what all he could find and uncover in the Yucatan. We traveled for, a few days, got there, met up with the team that was supposed to help him with the dig, and there was some locals that kept making kind of weird gestures towards him, and he asked what that was, and they said, oh, it's some kind of superstitious, talisman, basically. They're just trying to ward off any evil spirits that we may encounter when we go into the jungle. There's a lot of evil spirits in the jungle? He was a little shocked, but as it turns out, no one really believed anything that the locals were saying, so he just sort of shrugged it off and went with it. So he and his team go into the jungle, and of course they had some of the locals on their crew to kind of help them, and if they encountered any other people, because of course there were other people trying to find this discovery. They had interpreters and they were prepared to go. So they got to the site where everything was supposed to be happening. And the other locals kept saying a phrase that he didn't quite understand. So he asked his interpreters, what does La Dama de la Muerte mean? And they said, the Lady of Death. That's what they're saying. They met a Lady of Death in the jungle. We should get out of here. Well, not believing any of the superstitions, he and his team of diggers pressed on. They started looking around, and of course there was some ancient Mayan rubble and, things like that, but they hadn't really found anything substantial, something that could really put their university on the map. That's what they really needed. Finally, by finding a trail of destruction that kind of led deeper into the jungle, they started finding bigger structures, stone artifacts, stuff like that. More like what they had came to see, hoping to find some kind of reason to believe there was some kind of civilization here. As they started finding bigger things, the interpreters started getting a little more spooked and started begging them, please, let us turn back. We shouldn't be here. And of course they kept harping on about La Dama de la Muerte. Well, one day, one of the locals came hurtling out of the jungle that they were fixing to walk into, looking like he had seen some sort of ghost. And in fact, he sort of looked a little ghostly himself. He was very pale and obviously shaken by something. And all he could say was, "La Dama de la Muerte." So one of the interpreters talked to him for a while and tried to get a little more out of him. You know, what exactly did you see? What's going on? He didn't like what he heard. And he also didn't like that he was going to have to tell everyone else what he was hearing also. So after he talked to the guy, he went back to everyone else and he said he's the only one that survived. A whole crew of them, 10 people, went into the jungle. And he's the only one that came back. He said it was La Dama de la Muerte. She comes at night and she takes them, one by one, until no one was left but him. Still not believing in any of this silly superstition, they decided to point that guy back towards civilization and continue on. Well, pretty soon, they came to a tall structure that looked like it had been a pyramid, but part of it got destroyed in the earthquake. But there was still the big hole at the very top where the temple opening was, fully intact, hoping that they'd find some sort of statues or tools or something in there. They got very excited. They couldn't wait to explore a little further, but unfortunately, it was day end and they had to make camp at the foot of the pyramid. Now, of course, the Americans were perfectly comfortable with that, but not the interpreters. They were still spooked by their friend talking about La Dama de la Muerte and how she came at night. Was this the very ruins that he had ran from? They couldn't be sure, but it was the only thing that they could see in sight that fit what he was describing. And no one else seemed to be very scared, but they were. Well, that night, middle of the night, they thought they heard a faint scream somewhere off in the jungle. They woke up, but then they heard other animal sounds and thought maybe it was just a monkey or, you know, some kind of jungle animal. It's probably fine. But come daybreak, when everyone started getting up, they realized one of them was missing. One of the workers. They called out and called out, but he never showed up. Well, they reasoned that all this talk of La Dama de la Muerte spooked him, and he just left in the middle of the night to head back to civilization. Which seemed plausible, and, you know, it was spooky in the middle of the jungle. So, they didn't really blame him, but it was a little annoying. Now they're down a worker, and they've got all of this work that they've got to do. When they climbed the steps up to the temple opening, went in, there was a few statues in there, and one, what looked like sarcophagus. Now, the Mayans weren't really known for creating sarcophagi for their dead, so That was a little puzzling. Why was there, what obviously looked like a sarcophagus in here? But they weren't going to bemoan the wise. Obviously, it had to have been someone of great importance, or, they wouldn't have done such an odd thing, right? I mean, it made sense to them. So, they started trying to bring things down slowly, ropes and pulleys and all of that. But they couldn't quite move the sarcophagus. It was too heavy. They tried it and one of the ropes broke. So they left it, thinking, okay, we can take some of this stuff back and then, maybe we can get like a team of mules or something in here and really crank it up on this. Well, that night, again, in the middle of the night, they heard some strange cries again, but again, they thought, okay, it's probably just that animal again. It's obviously, made its home around here. It's fine. But again, in the morning, when they woke up, one of the workers was gone. Well, this was going a little bit beyond just workers fleeing from silly superstitions now. This was really inconveniencing them, and honestly, after it happened a second time, they were starting to get a little spooked. So they thought, okay, we'll get what we can out of there again today, and then tomorrow we're going to pack up and we're going to go. They made one more attempt to get the sarcophagus, but they still couldn't get it to budge. Disappointed, but they still had plenty to go off of. So they decided it was time to pack up and head out. There wasn't much more they could do here. Well, that night, again, they heard the screams. No longer sure that it was simply some animal in the jungle. They lit a lantern to see what they could see, and they saw a pair of glowing red eyes staring out from the jungle at them. The eyes didn't come any closer, nor did they back away. And they also noticed 2 workers were missing this time. They called for them, but got no reply. Well, the next morning they woke up determined to get out of there, especially after those haunting red eyes just staring at them all night. But then when they looked, all of their animals that had held everything were dead. Their throats had been cut open, but there was no blood. Well, they were determined. They had to get out of there. But not being able to bring any of their equipment or anything along was not really something that they wanted to do. Not after all that hard work. Not after all the strange occurrences. They decided 2 of them would pack up some backpacks and head back towards civilization. The rest of them would stay there and wait. They gathered firewood, hoping that maybe if they kept fires burning, whatever that was would stay away. It didn't seem to come any closer when it knew it was being watched, so maybe, just maybe, they would stand a chance. As long as they didn't let the flame go out. They decided to take turns on who was going to watch the fire. They had a plan. It was going to work. They just had to hold tight and help would be back before they knew it. I mean, there was other groups of workers in the jungle trying to find this. Surely they could bump into one of them and be back in like a day or two. Well, the two workers that left to find someone did in fact find one of the other groups of people that were trying to find some kind of something in the jungle. When they explained what was happening, of course, the other group decided to help them. If not greedily, because that meant they would know the location. But when they got there, there was no one there. They found the archaeologist's journal. The very last entry said, La Dama de la Muerte. She comes at night. She comes and she takes one of us at a time. But she always comes. Nothing will stop her. Beware, La Dama de la Muerte. And here's our finished look. Yes! Oh, I think the contacts really make it. I'm not sure about, like, I think I need to get, like, a lighter eyebrow pencil for this wig. Which also means I'm going to have to block my eyebrows, which is a lot of work, and I don't like doing it. Ugh. Anyway, I love this wig. It's so pretty. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't go traipsing off in the jungle, especially when they tell you there's a lady of death in the jungle. Maybe don't go. Maybe don't. Just, you know, or do. You know, your choice. Lady's choice. Alright, this was this. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you on Monday. And then the next two videos are going to be spooky, because it's spooky season. Like, hardcore spooky season time. Yes! Alright. Love you, bye!